I mean, we don't know who did this shooting, by the way, the Super Bowl shooting.
We have some idea.
What?
If it were a white man shooting, we'd know.
Well, we don't know. But they haven't.
That's how we know it's not a white man. I can tell you that much.
But you think they were repressing that reporting?
They wouldn't tell us about the transgender woman that shot up the Christian school for what, like a year? San Bernardino out here. Remember the crazy terrorist Muslims? That's when I first noticed, they're not telling us who it is. It's not a white male. The longer they go without telling you, it's not a white male.
Okay, well, for this one, for right now, as of Friday night, February 16th.
We know.
We don't officially know. Okay, you have special powers. But.
Well. Look what we have here. Should be no surprises to anybody with an ounce of common sense in regards to what the profile of the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl shooters, murderers, mass shooters look like, okay? And is as expected. The only thing that is different from what we expected is that apparently 2 adults are being charged with murder along with the 2 juveniles, aka young astronauts, that are also facing gun charges and other charges related to what happened with this incident. So now we have more information coming out from the mainstream liberal media about what happened and who was involved in this shooting. And I want to talk about it. And I want you guys to notice something very important that I think is of public interest for the media to actually show people, but they're not showing people for whatever reason. I don't know, right? But we do know, we all know that, you have the woke revolutionaries claiming it's a conspiracy, okay? Which is that they're not showing the suspects' faces for a reason, okay? The left is saying that the right is pushing a conspiracy that the media is trying to cover up the suspects. However, now we have the names of the suspects. You can't say they're not juveniles, but yet you have a really hard time finding pictures of these 2 suspects, even though we have their names, we know their identities. It seems like the mainstream liberal media doesn't really want to put their pictures out there for the world to see because a lot of the pictures they have, they're not going to paint a certain demographic in a good light. So without further ado, roll the clip.
We begin with that breaking news from the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office. Good afternoon, I'm Laura Moritz.
And I'm Kelly Yuckerman. KBC9's Matt Evans was at the news conference where she announced those charges. And Matt, these new charges are against 2 adults, not the 2 teens already in custody.
That's right. It should be noted, Kelly, that there are now 4 people facing charges in that Chiefs parade shooting from last week, including those 2 juveniles and now 2 adults whose charges were unsealed just hours ago, earlier on this afternoon. And also the prosecutor mentioning today that more charges could still be coming in the coming days and the coming weeks. Here's what we know about those charges filed today. Now, it should be noted both the people facing charges were shot and they are still in the hospital today. Lyndell Mays of Raytown, Missouri, and Dominic Miller of Kansas City are each facing second-degree murder charges, unlawful use of a weapon, and 2 counts each of armed criminal action. Prosecutors say they got into some kind of an argument right after the rally ended, and that resulted in both of them shooting at each other and into the crowd.
That argument very quickly escalated to Mays drawing his firearm, a handgun. Mays pulled his handgun first. Almost immediately, others pulled their firearms. Defendant Miller was one of those individuals.
And prosecutors believe it was a bullet from defendant Miller's gun that killed Lisa Lopez Galvin. Now, as far as exactly the relation between these 2, according to prosecutors, they did not know each other before this argument and before the rally. They also would not comment if either one are connected to those 2 juveniles that are also facing charges. They also wouldn't say exactly how many other shooters or suspects they may still be looking for, as this is still a very active investigation, according to the prosecutors. Although they do say that they expect more charges very soon. Both Miller and Mays still in the hospital, but when they're released, they'll be held on $1 million bond. Live in Dallas.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Okay, now this is Mr. Lyndell Mays, okay, who is the suspect that pulled out his gun first, and then apparently the other guy, whose name is Miller, last name Miller, Dominic Miller, I believe, he pulled out his gun, I guess, second, and then they started spraying and praying. Okay, that's what they started to do. They started shooting at each other. Sounds to me like it possibly could be gang related. They say it was over an argument. There's not many details about what was the argument about, right? What type of argument are you having at a Super Bowl parade that warrants pulling out guns on each other and trying to kill each other? And also, again, spraying and praying into a crowd of people to the point where you have dozens of people get shot. One woman was killed. Allegedly the bullet that killed Miss Lisa Lopez came from Miller's gun. Now, this is Miller, allegedly, okay? Because in this case, there was a guy that appeared to be arrested, and it turns out that he wasn't involved, okay? That's what it seems like. So you got to see alleged with this stuff because, this is the internet journalists, right, finding pictures of these guys. But I wouldn't be surprised if, again, the other suspect, Miller, does in fact look like this. In fact, that is what I expect. I would be surprised if he didn't look like this, okay? Is anybody surprised? I don't think that anybody's surprised, okay? So might as well be his picture, right? Because that's probably what he looks like. So again, I'm not sure, but a lot of these websites won't show their pictures, okay? I mean, you got some websites like the Daily Mail, they'll show some pictures, but a lot of them won't, okay? They won't show the pictures because they don't want you to know what they look like. They quite literally are saying, well, this doesn't fit the narrative, so therefore we're not going to show you. Now, again, if you remember the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, okay, Ethan Crumbley, okay, these other, mass shooters that commit these acts of violence, and, I would say that Kyle Rittenhouse is not necessarily a mass shooter per se. He was, engaging in self-defense, but I'm just saying, you guys know what I'm saying. They had no problem showing their faces immediately, right? In fact, they had no problems ruining Kyle Rittenhouse's life, even though he wasn't found guilty of murder and he was acting in self-defense. In fact, they're still trying to ruin his life. Okay, they had no problem revealing his identity and going after him. But all of a sudden, when it comes to these individuals, they're saying, oh no, they're juveniles, so we can't reveal their identities, which we know is not true. Now, come to find out that the actual murderers are not juveniles, and they're still trying to cover it up, right? They're still trying to cover up, not show you what they look like or who they are. It's really despicable, okay? And there's no other explanation for it outside of, well, they're trying to cover it up because they don't want to push certain stereotypes, okay, about certain demographics of people. And that's an extremely dangerous thing to do in our society. It really is. The American public deserves to know what people who commit these acts of violence look like, okay? And if there just so happens to be a pattern, so be it, right? Because they have no problems pushing the stereotype of the white male mass shooter. Again, look at the Buffalo mass shooter, okay? That guy, again, I'll give it to him. That guy was an actual white supremacist, okay? He committed a horrible act of violence, okay? And they projected this dude's face everywhere, okay? Projected this dude's face everywhere. But when it comes to these astronauts, nothing, right? They're scared to show what they look like. I don't know what other explanation can you have outside of it's racially motivated. The media is saying, oh yeah, these look like, stereotypes of what, people believe that criminals look like. Therefore, we're not going to show it. Which again is dangerous. Dangerous. Very, very, very dangerous, right? So with that being said, the mother of one of the murderers or alleged murderers, Lyndell Mays, is actually trying to raise money for him, right? It is revealed that she has a GoFundMe, allegedly, to try to pay for his hospital bills because he was shot and now he's in the hospital, and she's trying to raise cash for an alleged killer. So let's read here. The mother of a man charged with murder over the Kansas City Super Bowl parade shooting set up as a GoFundMe for him as his sister insists he's not a monster. Well, of course, right? Of course, they can say he's not a monster. He's smart. Okay, he was in school to be an engineer. It's about to be a doctor. Okay, this is what they're going to say. We all know what's coming, right? We all know what's coming. Tennille Burnside set up the cash appeal for her alleged killer son, Lyndell Mays, 23, complete with a photo of him seriously ill in his hospital bed. He was among those shot at the celebration on February 14th and was blasted 9 times. Prosecutors now say Mays was one of the 2 men to blame for the horrific bloodbath, although his unnamed sister insists he was trying to protect her. Okay. Well, that's the initial story. We'll see. Pleading for cash, Burnside said Mays was going through a tragic time, adding, quote, he is in ICU fighting for a recovery from several surgeries from going to the Chiefs Super Bowl celebration parade with his older sister. Quote, getting shot multiple times at a time that was meant to bring so much joy to many has brought pain and sadness to all that was attending. On Tuesday, Mays was charged with second-degree murder over last week's shooting, which killed DJ Lisa Lopez Galvin. The fundraiser collected $100 before being taken down. Mays remains in a stable condition in hospital and is being held under armed guard with bail set at $1 million. Facebook photos seen by dailymail.com show him posing with a huge wads of cash. Prosecutors say the other man charged, 18-year-old Dominic Miller, was the one who fired the fatal shot. Yeah, so again, was it self-defense? Who knows? But what I do know is that this is why you don't engage in these types of arguments in public, especially, again, when you're dealing with, firearms and things like that. There's no argument that's worth losing your life over. You really should walk away for the most part, okay? When you talk about arguing with strangers, it makes no sense to fight, and it makes no sense to go back and forth. It's just always better to walk away to avoid escalating these situations to the point where you have something like this happen and it turns into a tragedy. So with that being said, we'll see if the media will continue to cover this story. I have a feeling that it will go away. It's already starting to go away, as always, when the narrative doesn't fit. But we have found out that, in fact, these young scholars were young scholars, right? They were young scholars. Some of them were graduated scholars, right? They were full-blown astronauts. And this is why the mainstream liberal media doesn't want to show what they look like. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.